Picture this. It's the late 1980s. Omaha, Nebraska. Quiet, Midwestern, and unassuming. And then a rumor starts spreading. A federal credit union tied to corruption so dark, so disturbing, that it reaches into the highest levels of power. But this is not just financial crimes. These are allegations involving the abuse of children. This story is known as the Franklin Scandal. At the center of this scandal is Lawrence E. King Jr. King was the manager and treasurer of the Franklin Community Federal Credit Union. On paper, he was a success story, a rising star with political connections and a growing influence inside the Republican Party during the early 1980s. But according to multiple allegations, King used his power to gain access to people in very high places, some claims even reaching as far as the White House. Here are the allegations. King was accused of hosting secret sex parties where victims were allegedly flown in, drugged, and abused. These parties, according to testimony, were attended by prominent businessmen, media figures, clergy, law enforcement, and politicians from Nebraska and beyond. One alleged victim even claimed to have seen then Vice President George H.W. Bush at one of these gatherings. That claim has never been proven, but it gives you an idea of just how explosive these accusations were. King was accused of using Boys Town, a well-known nonprofit for at-risk youth and foster children, as a pipeline to access victims. These allegations didn't stop there. Claims included drug trafficking, satanic ritual abuse, and even connections to CIA-linked arms dealings. Again, these were allegations, but ones that shook this country. Then enter a man named Craig Spence, a powerful Republican lobbyist in Washington, D.C. In 1989, Spence famously said, "How do you think a little nobody like me moved around in these circles? It's because I had contacts at the highest levels." He openly claimed that powerful men attended his parties. Months later, Spence was found dead in his hotel room at a Ritz-Carlton in Boston. This death was ruled a suicide. This wasn't just limited to Republicans. Democratic Congressman Barney Frank was later linked to a separate Washington, D.C. prostitution scandal. Frank denied knowing minors were involved and was never charged with any crimes related to children. However, the scandal included a male escort ring ran in part by Gabriel Massero, a Maryland elementary school principal who allegedly used school resources to operate the ring while children were present. Authorities claim no children were involved, but the optics alone raised serious questions. Former Nebraska State Senator John DeCamp, a Vietnam veteran and author of the Franklin cover-up, claimed the entire operation was protected by powerful figures. One of his clients, Paul Benassi, testified he was trafficked across the country, forced into abuse, used as a carrier for drugs, and compelled to participate in films, all allegedly under King's control. Benassi named politicians, police officers, and prominent Omaha figures, including newspaper publisher Harold Anderson. Despite this, the FBI declined to pursue the case. A grand jury ultimately labeled the allegations a hoax, and much of the media followed suit. Two other accusers, Troy Bonner and Alicia Owen, claimed they were pressured by federal authorities to recant their stories. Alicia Owen said the FBI promised her that if she withdrew her testimony, she would not be charged. That promise didn't hold, and in 1991, she was sentenced to 9 to 25 years in prison for perjury. She never recanted her story. Even after her brother was found dead under mysterious circumstances in a correctional facility in 1990, Alicia stood by her story, and she was later released in 2001. And this is where the story takes a much darker turn. Troy Bonner, one of the original accusers, later said he was threatened into recanting his testimony. And then years later, in 2003, his brother was found dead in what authorities ruled a Russian roulette incident, an explanation that immediately raised eyebrows. Not long after, Bonner reportedly ran into a hospital in New Mexico, clutching a copy of the Franklin cover-up, screaming, "They're after me." He was sedated, placed alone in a private room, and the next morning he was found dead. blood reportedly coming from his mouth, with no clear answers to follow. As if that wasn't enough, then there's Gary Caradori, the chief investigator for the Nebraska State Senate's Franklin Committee. In July of 1990, Caradori died in a plane crash while flying back from Chicago, where he had reportedly been collecting evidence related to the case. Witnesses claimed that his plane appeared to break apart in midair. What made this crash even more unsettling was what came next. Caradori's wife later said she received multiple phone calls the day before the crash from one of the accusers, Troy Bonner. According to her, Bonner told her, "I told the truth and they made me take it back." As if those phone calls weren't eerie enough, the next day, her husband mysteriously dies in a plane crash. And the list of mysterious deaths doesn't stop there. A former CIA director, William Colby, who reportedly encouraged John DeCamp to write the book about the scandal, was later found dead in what was officially ruled a boating accident. Authorities suggested Colby may have suffered a heart attack or a stroke and then drowned. But friends and family noted something odd. Colby was always known for wearing a life vest while boating, and he wasn't wearing one when his body was recovered. There are more deaths associated with this scandal, either directly or indirectly, to the figures involved in this case, which raises more questions. There was a man who was a business partner of Lawrence King named Bill Baker, who was found shot in the back of the head. A confidential informant for Gary Caradori died suddenly in 1991 at the age of 70, and by all accounts, he was a healthy and physically active man. Joe Malik, a friend of King, died from what was ruled a self-inflicted gunshot wound, and one of King's lovers was found dead. Dan Ryan, a King associate, was also found dead in his car. Kathleen Sorensen, a vocal critic of King and his alleged activities, died in a suspicious car accident in 1989. Curtis Tucker, another associate of King, jumped from a hotel window in Omaha. Individually, each death might have an explanation, but with all these accounts taken together, it starts to feel like a pattern. A very scary and dark pattern. As for King, there was one conviction that did stick. In 1991, he was found guilty of embezzling more than $39 million from the Franklin Credit Union, roughly $92 million in today's money. However, the abuse allegations against King were officially ruled unfounded, largely due to what authorities cited as a lack of credible witnesses, many of whom had recanted, disappeared, or were imprisoned. So what are we left with? A story involving massive financial corruption, allegations of child exploitation, powerful political and intelligence figures, and a long trial of intimidation, silence, and even death. So is all this just a coincidence, an elaborate hoax, or something far darker that truly never saw the light of day? I can't tell you for certain what the truth is, but I can say this. There are far too many unanswered questions for this story to just simply disappear. And it does make you wonder, what are the most powerful people doing behind closed doors late at night and far from the public view? This truly has been one of the most disturbing and controversial stories in modern American history. If you enjoyed this breakdown, or if it made you question the official narrative, please like this video and subscribe for future episodes. And please let me know your thoughts in the comments if this makes you think of other stories that are in the news today. Ones that involve pizzas and gates and even, certain files. Please like this video and take care of one another. God bless, and thank you for watching.